Hello, my name is Erica Lopez, and I am currently a student at Fresno State taking Social 143 online with Dr. Vera Kennedy. Now, this video is to talk about the influence of media and television on social perceptions of crime, violence, and deviance. First off, I want to start with the figure in the Journal of Broadcasting and Electronic Media. This figure basically outlines the entire purpose of all three articles, as well as some other examples of media that I will show throughout the video. Now, to start with the first factor that the figure illustrates in regards to the racial profiling of minorities, thus leading to people having these perceptions of these minorities. The first factor is the audience's characteristics. So you start with the presentation of their own demographics in relation to their personal experiences with this race as well. So basically, take for instance, okay, so my grandfather, he comes from Mexico, has never interacted with an African American male. His own personal demographic as a Hispanic male who has never seen or really talked to or interacted with an African American male is going to believe whatever the news portrays to him, which is they are dangerous, they steal, etc. Even though this is not the case, his own personal experience and demographics will lead him to believe whatever the media is presenting to him. Now, the second factor is the characteristics that these messages carry. So, for example, if you watch a movie like Boys in the Hood, where the amount of crime that influences the Black community or the Hispanic community, like Blood In, Blood Out, it shows a portrayal of these minorities that becomes a reality because of how often it is portrayed in that way. It is reiterated, and thus the preconceived notions that these people had already are emphasized, and instead of it being, just a movie, it starts to become a reality. Now, the third factor shown in the video is the media consumption, which it consists of the exposure, attention, selectiveness, and ritualistic nature of these films and the type of news that is shown to us. So, take for instance, media priming from the same Journal of Broadcasting and Electronic Media. Media priming is defined as when people select the part of the truth that they want to present to the public. And oftentimes, media priming is done not only to present news, but also to sway the audience's attention from what's really going on and emphasizing on the minorities who are committing these crimes, thus creating a label for them as deviants or delinquents or criminals. Now, all of those factors influence the outcome. The outcome of it is, it starts in a few steps according to this figure. The first is your perception of them. So the conclusions that you draw from these films according to the factors that I mentioned earlier start to play a role in your life. You start to measure the risks of befriending these people or believing the news or believing otherwise, or actually taking what you see instead of what people tell you. You start measuring those risks. Then oftentimes you start feeling fear. I will use an example regarding 9/11, how there was right after 9/11, Bush started, calling Muslim people terrorists, even though Muslims did not commit these acts of terrorism. It had nothing to do with the religion. Thus creating fear within the society against these minorities, and then leading to actions, which is, seeing someone with a turban and labeling them as terrorists, going to buy guns, in protection of these criminals that are labeled in our media. And lastly, I would like to show an example of a song that is rapped by an artist called J. Cole. His name is Jermaine Cole, and in this song, it is about a father who basically falls victim to the streets. However, there is a verse in the song that I'm going to play for you that mentions how the way that the media has depicted the outcome of black men swayed his own beliefs.
Don't know how to act in a drought. See, baby girl, I realize my definition of a real nigga was skewed. My views misshaped by new mixtapes that confirm the shit I learned in the streets was true. That real niggas don't.
Rappers mention in their lyrics if it's, African Americans are gangbangers, so on and so forth. He's basically saying it reiterated what he already had, the already preconceived notions created by his own brain because of the consistency of these issues being brought up in his life. Overall, I think it is important to notice the cycle of these things, of the way that these factors play a role in the way that we racially profile somebody, in the way that we relate minorities to crime and delinquency and deviance, even when they have much more to offer. It is important to educate yourself in that manner, simply because it will be beneficial not only to them but to yourself to be an open-minded individual that allows for people to be who they are regardless of their background. In the article titled, in the article by Tracy Carpenter, intersectionality is seen as synonymous to the racial and gender profiling of the deviant acts committed by the minorities. Even though it is not, everybody has their own life. It is not subjective to these races, and it should not be seen as intersectionality, but more or less effects of being in these neighborhoods and in these situations. It is a systematic oppression, and it should be viewed as such, not as someone, simply fitting the roles just for being a certain race or a certain gender. Thank you.